We have only 35 chambers. There is no 36.
I know that. But I want to create a new chamber.
And what would that be?
I think Shaolin techniques should be available to all. So then, that's my idea for a new chamber. To teach the martial arts to the people. Anybody.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of My 3 Cents. I know it's been a minute since I have posted an episode, but as you know, I'm a very busy individual, but I never forget to come back, drop something, say something valuable, because when I do get on here, it's because I'm inspired to. So I get on here and I want to share something that's going to actually help you rather than you just looking forward to me saying something else. All right, so that being said, man, welcome back, repeat listeners, first-time listeners. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. And so in this episode, what I want to talk about, everybody, is basically what I always talk about, is that people need to find the value in themselves. So I want to talk about value, the value of you, and why, especially today in this new digital era, that is so important for you to learn how to brand yourself, find your value, see how you can monetize that in a way. And I'm not saying make money the goal, but I'm going to show you how to live your life. I just want to share with you a little bit on how to live your life and let the money be a byproduct of you just living and just being yourself. Okay, so these are the things I'm going to touch on today. So I want to call this episode Brand Me. Some of the importance of personal branding in this new digital age is because things are changing, right? People are seeing cryptocurrency, Web3. They didn't know we was out of Web 1. I know a lot of people is like, Web 3, what happened to Web 2? Okay, so it's a lot of gaps in the information, in the generations, and just a lot of misinformation. So with the rise of social media, the internet, and all these things changing and evolving right in front of you, right? Because you used to be on Facebook, now you're in Meta, you still go in there and look at your friends. You don't know the difference. You don't know what happened, okay? So now with all this new platformage and everything that's coming about, it's easier to kind of grow your brand. And if you do have something to say, it's kind of easier to put yourself out there and be heard, right? So remember, just like a personality, you know, we walk around trying to say, oh, I'm special, I'm an individual, I'm me. But just like a personality, your personal brand is what's going to set you apart from everybody else, right? So how do I know you're not somebody else? Because you act like you, okay? So it's the same thing with your brand. So think about your personality or your persona or all the different nuance that you come with as working for your brand, right? That stuff works towards you as a personal brand. So that's what that means when I'm saying brand yourself, okay? So a big part of this is of building a strong personal brand is really putting in time and effort, just like everything else. So no different than your actual personality. It took a lot of events in life and different situations that you had to go through and grow through, right, for you to become whoever you are now. So it's no different when you're trying to brand your personal self, make your personal brand. It takes time and effort, right? But just like everything else, when you put that work in, it's going to be worth it in the long run. We know that. All right. So it's very important to be consistent with, when you're trying to build a brand, right? It's important to be consistent with the message of your brand, the image of your brand. How does your brand come across? So this is like thinking about yourself when you leave the house. I make jokes a lot of times, and it's really serious and not to be joked about. But when you see the women with the bonnets in public, wearing their pajamas, just looking disheveled, like you haven't took a shower or washed your face or did anything, right? You got to understand that that's your brand. So this is like if you owned a business and I come in your business and it's filthy and it stinks. That's your brand, Okay, so building a strong brand takes that time and effort. A part of that effort is maintaining that balance, that decorum, however you want to put it, within, right? It's just maintaining that inner balance of you and not letting yourself lean too hard in either direction. So your message and your image have to be consistent. When I see you, man, I see greatness. Every time I see this person, I see this and I feel this energy. Okay, your message, it's like, what are you talking about every time I talk to you? Are you complaining? Are you always talking about very complicated situations? I know a lot of people like this that I would love to spend more time around, but because their conversation is so limited, because their mind is so limited, because they're not into the things that I'm into, and you don't have to be into everything I'm into, but if we can't even have conversation on equal stance, then we really don't have business being around each other, right? And that's why we say things like, we don't have any business being around them. Mind your business. You know, again, this is about a personal brand. This is about you, the person, the name. That is your, pretty much your logo, right? Your name is actually just the name of your business. And how you're representing yourself as an image. You are your logo, right? You are your logo. So before you say any words and I see you, the logo, before I go in your store, I see that logo and I say, man, I want to see what's in this store. This looks interesting, right? So this is equivalent to your persona and your personal brand. These two things are equivalent to each other, right? So be consistent in that. So when you're working on social media or in person, show consistency. Don't be someone else online than you are in real life. That's very important because the internet is a place where people have gotten very comfortable with just creating themselves and kind of passing themselves off as whatever they want to be. I find it very fascinating. I do watch Catfish. You know, sometimes I'll watch that show because it's like an experiment. You know, it's like I'm learning about how people really think. And, you know, as an empath, I'm able to also feel why they're doing this stuff. Okay. And that's very important data and information. So, you know, when you're on that journey of becoming enlightened, right? When it's upon you, that doesn't mean you have to stop doing this and stop doing that. See, what changed for me with viewing TV shows and movies is that I don't watch them any longer for entertainment. You see, because I used to go in and out of a theater and say that was a terrible movie. Now I can go in and out of a theater and say, I understand the whole purpose of this. So whether it entertained me or not is really not important. So from that standpoint, you can learn a lot more. So your personal brand is what sets you apart from other people, and it's what people remember you by. So that's why they say first impressions are lasting ones, right? Because I'm always going to remember the last time I met you. See? So that's another thing that's very important. Leave people on a good stance or leave on good standing, right? So another part of that, of it taking time and effort to build your brand, you know it's going to be worth it in the long run, right? I said, whether it's social media or real life, you want to have those two things match. You want to be recognizable and you want to be memorable. Okay, that's the purpose of that. You want to be recognizable and memorable. Now, another very important thing, and I'm teaching my daughter this too, because we're working on her YouTube channel. She's an artist. She's a very good artist. She's 12 years old. Raw artist. I mean, been drawing for years and years. Genius with the pen. Whatever she picks up as a medium, she will create art with it, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? So one thing I'm really teaching her is that it's important to be authentic, right? Really be your authentic self, because this is your personal brand. This is you. So when people say, put yourself out there, what does that mean? It means take what was your private brand and make it your public personal brand. So this is a tough thing to do for a lot of people because the public and the private normally are very separate, right? Because normally what you do in private, you normally don't do in public. And what happens is you start to blur that line a little bit. And I'm not talking about the more private parts of life as far as where you would actually need privacy. I'm not talking about anything weird like nudity, nothing crazy like that. But what I'm saying is that private self of mentality starts to merge with the public self mentality. So what that means is that you no longer exhibit, let's say, being closed off or whatever you normally are. You might go out in public and talk a little bit more and interact with the people a little bit more and start to kind of merge these worlds. And now when you go home, you're less closed off at home towards your family, your people, or whatever you got going on. Because, we have these different personality types, whether we're talking about intro or extrovert. And so it's good to not really sit or get stuck in that. Recognize what they say you might be close to, but it's good to not get stuck in that, because that's also something that you can manipulate, alter, change, and ultimately make it into whatever you want it to be. So my advice is to always lean toward what seems to be your weaker side or something about you that is not as strong as another aspect of you that you do find very strong. So it's important to be authentic and be yourself when you're doing this personal branding thing. You're putting yourself out there. Okay. So remember, putting yourself out there. You're coming from within, you're going out. You got to go inside first. Get right with yourself, balance yourself from the inside, and then start to exhibit yourself a little bit more. Put yourself out there, right? So make your private self a little bit more public and just be authentic, okay? Because people can tell when you're being fake, right? People can tell when you're not being real. So be authentic when you're building your brand. Be true to yourself. This is something that I grew up with in my mind, was always to thine own self be true. That's something that is one of the most powerful statements ever. Because if you stick to that, if you're at least always true to yourself, you don't have anything to prove to anybody else. So be real, be true to yourself first. And guess what? You're not trying to fool or do anything to anybody else, because you're real and true from the inside out. This takes off the pressures of a lot of things when you focus on yourself. When you focus on yourself, it takes off a lot of the pressures that you thought you had, because you were focused on what other people are doing and saying. Just think about that. It makes total sense. So, like we said, it extends to your online presence. Be genuine, be yourself. Make sure your websites, your social medias, everything that you got your name, image, likeness on, make sure they are professional. Make sure they are up to date. I mean, I go through now, it takes time, go to your different social medias for your business. Make sure you're interacting with the people and saying something. Just take that time to do it. Don't think about how much you have to do, because the time you're sitting there thinking about it, you could have did 2 or 3 things. So this is going to be a short episode. I just want to drop in and say this. So remember, personal branding is an ongoing process. It's not something that you do once and you forget about. You can't set it and forget it. It is an ongoing thing of being seen, being heard, being yourself, being out there, and being all right with the feedback, right? This podcast was a great way for me to put myself out there in a way that I haven't done before. I'm great with friends, people, whoever I want to be cool with, talk to, chat with. That's cool, that's fine. But this was something out of my element. This was something a little out of my comfort zone. And that is the exact reason that I did it. So remember, put yourself in that different light. Challenge yourself. Don't be comfortable, right? So you can't set it and forget it, but you can work on it and build up this reputation, right? Your online reputation, your life reputation. It's up to you how far you want to go and how much you want to put yourself out there, okay? So it's important to regularly evaluate your personal brand. Make changes if necessary. You got to pivot whenever something doesn't feel right or look right anymore. You might go off, come back a little bit smarter and look at it, and who knows? So don't be afraid to change things. Don't feel like a failure. Don't feel like anything. Just do what you got to do. And when you can zoom out and see the big picture, it makes it easier for you to do what you got to do, because you're not hung up on all the small things, because you understand what they are leading towards, right? So last thing I want to say is I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in today's episode of the Brand Me podcast episode. And remember, a strong personal brand is essential for success in today's digital world. Stay authentic, stay consistent, and stay true to yourself. All right. So until next time, this has been another episode of My 3 Cents. Wholeness, wholeness, wholeness. And let me sprinkle a little bit of gratitude on that. All right. Go.